probably here for the first time, right? Raise your hand if you're first time attending any of our events.
Nothing personal.
We're just gonna wait for a couple more minutes to see if any trickles in.
Try to make it relevant to the older crowd as well. That's why it's at this campus this time. But obviously, everything we talk about is relevant for all ages, kindergarten, preschool through 12th grade. Whoever didn't sign up, this is just like to keep track of who comes to our events. If you're not on the WhatsApp, we do have a like parent circle WhatsApp.
Zoom into the video.
Phone number.
Zoom in there?
That's okay.
Possible.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we can zoom in.
Our own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Play
yeah.
the video, then just zoom in on that.
Yeah.
Let me play the video.
We'll play the video.
Okay,
Keep it
okay.
start when we have a change slide.
Actually, yeah, we can zoom in. Yeah.
Yeah, we can zoom in.
Perfect.
I'll be here.
I can take care of it too.
You're presenting what?
I mean, I am. I can go back and forth.
Okay.
Because if they have questions and stuff.
Yes, so you need to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you want to just read off the questions.
Okay. We have 5 people.
You went Sunday?
We went on Sunday. Yeah. 1 o'clock. We're there. There might have been. You went at 1 o'clock.
No, we went on Saturday.
You went on Saturday. We went Sunday and we went at 1 o'clock and I thought maybe 1:30.
I had planned to go to the newsletter maybe
Oh,
Sunday,
it was.
but then no, they said it's very big. It's an option for me.
Oh, I wanted to see the theater. I know. My daughter's like really bad. So I don't think I can. But I also feel like there's another baby by the same in the same like genre as Palestine.
Yeah, there was one.
All right, Assalamu alaikum. So we're gonna get started, inshallah. Welcome to our parent workshop. We do these every quarter. Mr. Q has decided to tag along this time to bring his expertise, inshallah. So we're gonna. So I'm Musaida. I'm the school counselor at Skokie, and this is my year 2 here. I love what I do, and yeah, super excited to do this.
I'm Miss Linda. I'm the counselor here at Morton Grove Middle School High School. This is my first year here, but my 10th year as a school counselor. And yeah, we're also both certified counselors, meaning like we can serve as like therapists outside of the school as well. So yeah, we've been doing this all year, you know, with parent circles, but parent workshops are a little more rare. But alhamdulillah.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Habib Qadri. Have 3 kids at the school here. One's in the high school. Just been in education and stuff for the last 25, 30 years.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna get started with a video, and then.
I'm often asked that if things are environmental, then why is it that in the same family, 2 children receive the same parenting, the same food, the same toys, and one of them will have ADHD, the other will not, one of them will be an addict, the other will not, one of them will have this or that condition, the other will not. First of all, this is also true of identical twins. And then you can also say, well, if the genes are the same, how come they don't? The answer is that no 2 kids have the same environment. No 2 children are the same parents. My children live with the same parents, even though they're the same mother and father. Because it's not the physicality of the parent, but the emotional states that define who the child experiences as a parent. So you can love the child as equally as you love another child, but if you're stressed during one pregnancy or one infancy and you're not doing the other, those children don't have the same parents. If the economic situation is relationship alters, those children don't have the same parents. Furthermore, of course, they're born concurrent. P.W. Winnicott is a great British child psychiatrist. He said that even if a mother could be the same mother to 8 other children, which she couldn't be, he said, but even if she could be, they would still have 8 different mothers, because temperamentally they would experience her as different. So it's just not possible to speak of 2 children having the same parents in the same situation. Children trigger different reactions in each parent. A male child will not evoke the same response necessarily in a father as a female child will, or the mother for that matter. A child who is highly sensitive will not trigger the same response in the parent as a child who's more sturdy by temperament, and so on, so that we're shaped by our children as well. It's called the recursive nature of human development, where not only the child developing in response to the parent, but the parent also develops in response to the child. So that children create their parents in some ways, not deliberately and not consciously, but simply by who they are and how they respond, and what that may trigger in the parent. Obviously, the more conscious and the more mature we are as parents, the less likely we are to be differentially triggered by our kids. But it's almost inevitable that there'll be some differences. And so, again, I say no 2 children have the same parents.
So, Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem. So first and foremost, the topic you said was parenting. Who said it was easy? So what we try to do is, we also have this live going on Instagram, because I have a lot of parents who are, because of work, and we're trying to think about maybe doing it on Saturdays or Sundays. We're trying to look at different ways to get more and more parents involved. So I know there are some objectives that we want to make sure that we have, which is difference between supportive involvement and over involvement. So just kind of keeping these balances, right? How do we make sure that to better understand the emotional and development needs of individuals, right? So when it becomes ourselves as as parents, what are also our triggers to what is exactly also on the student side. And then also reflect on our styles, right? And I think everyone has their strengths and our weaknesses, so it's so important for us to kind of keep those things away. And at the end, the key factor is to walk away with something, right? The idea is to keep it practical. Again, do I have all the answers? Do they all have the answers? No, but we can see what we've seen people do, or what we've heard in dealing with different students. Here are some suggestions and ideas that hopefully have shown some form of success.
We have a poll.
Yeah.
This is a QR code.
You guys wanna pull up your phones and then we can participate as well.
Once we got it, it's also going to be on this next page if you didn't get it yet.
Does it sign up? I thought it should be.
No. Try doing this QR code.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you balance when to step in and when to let your child handle a struggle on their own? So there's a couple choices. Just want to see what everyone said.
We're not going to be seeing names at the end, so don't.
Yeah, this is anonymous.
People online, they won't be able to. For people online, you're just going to have to.
We can send it at the end, then they can try it too.
There's only a single choice.
Just 2 questions,
There's
I have to first wait for everyone to respond, and then I'll show you like a poll. So it's going to show you how many students. Is everyone done responding? Alright. So this is what everyone said. So 5 of you said, I asked, do you want help or do you want to try to figure it out? Which is a good response. It's a good way to have your child kind of understand on their own that they need to problem solve. But we also had a few that said, I provide hints or part solutions to help them get unstuck, but let them finish the task. So that's also a good way to kind of guide your child. All right, we have the next question. All right, so I think you could stay on the same one. So what is your biggest parenting challenge right now? two options there. Alright, so 5 of you said managing behavior and emotions, which is probably very on point, right? A lot of parents struggle kind of with handling their kids emotionally, you know, when they have outbursts and whatnot. And then 4 of you said screen time or routines. Another big struggle, right? Screen time, trying to get all the kids in the house to kind of put down the screens and have some family time, or maybe just it's time to go to bed, right? The routine of that. So you're right on point with that one.
You're just poll.
Yeah, I was following on the last.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we're just doing a poll right now.
All right, one more. How would you describe your parenting? It's very hard to see on there, but on your phone you should be able to read it clearly. All right, 5 of us said I'm involved, but I try to give them independence. All right, and then another 5 said I tend to be very involved in my child's day-to-day life. And some people said it depends on the situation. Probably most accurately is it depends on the situation. But of course we want our kids to be independent. We just have to foster that, right? We have to teach them that. So that's kind of what our presentation centers on. All right, we'll go back to the presentation.
All right. Yeah. So we often ask ourselves these questions, right? Like why parenting feels so hard. I just want you all to take a second to just reflect a little bit to see why is parenting so hard. From a therapist perspective, I'm not 100% all the time, right? Like I've been trained in this, but I actually don't know what I'm doing. I'll be honest. So every child is different, of course, right? We just learned that. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, pressure from social media, schools, and society, and like that peer pressure that we're talking about. Obviously, for the younger kids, we don't see that as much as we see in like middle school and high school, and balancing protecting with independence is also tricky, right? So we can't give too much independence. How do we create that balance?
So right, let's think about this. Everything that happens is not, a lot of times parents say, oh, this is because we're in the West. Look, things happen everywhere, right? And we got to get this all cleared out, because a lot of times when I talk to parents, like, but back home we didn't used to see this. Everyone used to see it. Sometimes you didn't know about it. Sometimes you just kept it hush-hush. So let's just kind of think about it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even reminds us in Surah Anfal that even our kids will be, our progenies will be a test, right? All of us are going to be tested with our health, wealth, our family. All 3, many of our prophets were. So let's give you an example. You have Adam alayhi salam, before video games, before guns and all this, you have one brother jealous of another brother to a point he kills him, right? A second one is, you have an individual that tells his son, please come to the deen, doesn't send him maybe Sunday school for 1 week, or for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, maybe not Islam school, whatever it was. But the ulama say that he was not 100 years old, not even 200. His son was 300 years old when the Great Flood happened. So it's not like it was like, he was like only like an 8-year-old, like, come on, son, why did you do this? But what did he do? He kept on making dua when his son goes, I'm going to go to the top of the mountains, I'll be fine. He kept making dua until Allah told him to stop making dua. Allah's not going to send us a message that says stop working with your kid, right? So we go, one of the rules, that one thing we need to remember, never lose hope in our child. We keep on going and making dua and trying our best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest. But the idea is that Prophet Nuh alayhi salam is one example of that even in your family, there could be struggles, right? That happened to a prophet. And here's the other one. A lot of times, sometimes when I talk to parents always go, Brother Khadir, I know it's there, but it's not me, like, it's maybe that kid, right? It might not be my kid, right? Because we know so-and-so in a family, so-and-so, and I always remind all of us, mashallah, all of us have good families, we come from great places, but Allah reminds us, and I think we'll all be humbled by this, that we have one example where the grandfather was a prophet. His father was a prophet. Then he himself became a prophet, and 10 of his brothers, or at least 8 of those 10, decided maybe, let's kill him or throw him in the well. Where you have Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, right? So just that example of, hey, things can happen, so Allah protect. Then Allah gives us example of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, where the child might be practicing, but the father's not. So you're going to also have situations where even it could be a husband-wife dynamic, like someone's trying to be more religious, someone's not, someone's being more, a stronger personality, parenting, one wants to be more relaxed. So those are another challenges that you also see that kids might go through and say, okay, which one do I want to go with? I know that and every kid knows where to go to. Like I knew that if I want to get something, they'll go to Ammi, right? Baba's not going to work, right? Or vice versa, right? The kids know, okay, who to go to, right? When my daughters come up, like, Baba, okay, something's up now. Not even really nice, right? Whatever it is, everyone has certain things that they want to go to or have conversations about. So it's so important, even from the parenting perspective, how that plays a part. Next one. So just now, William Glasser is a Harvard psychologist, and he talks about how students retain information. And it's so important to kind of keep in mind is that 10% is what they read, 20% is what they hear. So you could say, look, I want you to read this hadith, what the Prophet said. Or we could talk about it, but 50% is what they see and hear. You see in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, and the Prophet Muhammad is the best of examples. So think about this. Everything that the Prophet said, he did. When he said, "La taghdab," to this one person, don't get angry, he himself also should be calm, right? He said, be involved in your family, and be, respect with kids. There's many hadiths, and this is not the time to go through all those examples, but that gives you a perspective, right? To praise Allah, to fast, every aspect the Prophet ﷺ also went through. How students retain information also is discussion. The Prophet asked questions. How we know about the internal parts of the house is that people ask Aisha radiallahu anha to get the facts. Bathroom, all these other aspects, we would not know if people don't ask questions. A lot of times when we grew up, you'd be like, why are you asking questions? Don't ask questions. Shaitan's asking you to ask those questions. Right? When we wrote the book, War Within the Hearts, The Struggles of the Muslim Youth, that's when I grew up. I wanted to know, why we can't make? Why can't we go, why don't we listen to music? What's the balance of it? Right? Your whole idea, because our deen has answers. And the more we kind of talk away, that's when kids are like, okay, what is it? And especially now when kids get on the internet, where you can look at information, or you can see stuff where it says, oh man, this guy looks like a sheikh, look how big his beard is. Here's his fatwa, right? Now you can find almost any fatwa on anything. So it's so important to be like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about it. So that plays a big part. 80% is what they experience personally, and 95% is when they teach someone else. So what they see at the house, the way we react when we're driving a car and we see someone cuts off, and what the response you have, or the arguments, are you with your own family or with your own parents, kids are going to pick that up. How you speak between spouses. All these factors play a big part of the whole parenting scheme. So it's not like the book said this. What's really going to be like, what did you do and how did you do, plays a big part. Now, there's always going to be outliers. But a lot of times also there are remnants out there. Even when me and my wife joke around when son might do something. I'm more of like the big picture. My wife's an anesthesia pizza. She's everything's precise, right? Which is good. Man, she has no room for error going in a baby's airwaves, right? There's no left, right, inshallah, it'll happen. There's no room. Where me working with people, I have to be like, I understand they did this. Let me still remind them about parking, not taking a left, but still, you just can't go crazy, right? But you have to now look at these big pictures in the same way as parents.
All right, so when we talk about parenting, there's a spectrum, right? You have the helicopter parent, which is the authoritarian, right? The parent that's highly involved, overprotective, right? Tries to control everything, right? And then you have the hands-off, right? Permissive, uninvolved parent, right? Parenting like minimum involvement, high independence, like the kid can handle everything on their own, right? And then you have the healthy, right, which is authoritative, which is like a mix of both, right? It's somewhere in the middle, right? So I'm sure you guys have heard this before. All right, so I'm sure you've heard somewhat of this type of talk when we talk about parenting, authoritative, authoritarian, right? Well, there's good and bad with both kinds, right? So like helicopter parenting, there's strengths and there's risks, right? The strength is that the child feels safe, right? The child has structure. The child has your emotional availability all the time, right? But the risk is that sometimes they develop an anxiety, right? They mirror your anxiety as well, right? They lack independence. They can't do anything without your support, without you being right there, right? They fear failure, right? And that's what tied to anxiety as well, right? And they struggle with solving problems on their own, right? Whenever a problem comes up, they need to discuss it with mom, dad. They need that input. They can't come up with a solution on their own.
So can I give you an example of that? I'm going to give you an example for each one because I think we're practical. So I'm going to give you two: little kids, adults, teenagers. First one, go to the park. Everyone, inshallah, we make dua that's going to get better weather. But when they go outside to the park, one part is helicopters like, okay, we've come here. Okay, now we're going to go to the slides. Let's walk to the slides. Okay, get on the slides now. Slide down, right? Anyone's there? Okay, let's go to Has. Hey, can Ahmed play with them? Okay, great. Here it is, right? Everything's set up for this individual. Right now, if mom's not there, our dad's not there, there is a problem like, okay, how do I get, where do I go? What should I do? Should I go up there? Do I go slide? Mom's not standing on the bottom to say, I got you, right? No, there's a one time, but you have to wean out of stuff, right? So that part becomes, I'm going to kind of give you the same example again for the other three parenting. So that's one. Take away now the other aspect of someone's watching Super Bowl is happening. There's a basketball game, or some sports game is happening. Now someone just goes, hey, Ahmed, it's time for Salah, right? Okay, what part do you not understand? Shut the TV off, go play Salah, right? It's what part did you not? I already told you twice, you shut it off, right? So that kind of gives you an example. As we go to the second one, I'm going to tell you like, how does each one kind of progress in the way you parent?
All right, so the hands-off parenting, right? There's also strengths and risks, right? The strengths are independence, right? The child is highly independent. They're resilient. They bounce back from things very easily, right? They're confident in themselves, and they have usually high self-esteem, right? Because they believe in themselves. They think they can do everything on their own, right? The risks is they feel unsupported and disconnected from their parents. They feel like the parent doesn't really care. They never really do anything for me. I could do everything on my own. They may lack, the children may lack guidance or boundaries, right? They might not understand the boundary. They might not know where the line is and why not to cross it, right? Because they're so independent.
So now take that same situation. You take Ahmed to the park. It's like, you walk around, go, which is good, right? And you're just sitting down like, I'm on my text, all right? I'm going to go on my phone, do what happens, maybe look to make sure it's safe. Situation happens, you're trying to let them figure out. Again, everything has its strengths and benefits, right? So that's what I want you to realize, right? So there are certain times we have to maybe let some kids do this. We're going to talk about that a bit later. But taking that same situation now for TV. Ahmed, pray your salam. Okay, Ahmed, pray your salam. Yeah, I told him 4 or 5 times. That's fine. He's watching. Okay, right? And kids pick up. I remember this one individual. I was playing table tennis, but they were like, Rizwan, right? I'm like playing, I'm like, your mom's calling you. Don't worry. Rizwan. I'm like, oh, he's like, she's like, Rizwan, beep, beep, beep. Like, like extra adjectives. He's like, now she's bad. Right? So people figure out when it's really serious, when it's not. Right? She's like, look, she always just says stuff, right? She always yells, so don't worry about it. In the back of my mind, I'm like, my mom, she doesn't yell, so she yells, like, this must be serious. Sometimes kids get this intertwined where you're just like nagging all the time. When is it not, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Third?
So with that,
Yeah.
So with that, balance is always needed. Warmth, structure. A lot of times, what I've noticed is that we have so much structure in the school day, and when we on the flip side, we don't have structure at home. And how do we create that balance from having structure at school and also having structure at home? You have to have clear expectations with room to grow, giving kids choices. I'm all about autonomy, so giving kids like this or that so that they can pick whichever feels will fit their need. Support without taking over, so guidance, understanding and being honest about what the expectations are.
So let's kind of give you now that same scenario what we had about the playground. So the playground now would be, all right, you're walking in, you say, hey, you know, what choice, what do you want to play? Okay, go inside, all right, we're there, hey, you kind of, you let them go. Okay, you see, you're doing good now, all right? Baba's going to sit right here, and you just go ahead and play if there's any problems there. Or maybe they're a nervous one. Like, okay, I'm going to go, and I'm going to talk to them and just kind of start the conversation. I want you to just go and say, hey, can I play with you? You're kind of telling them what to say, but you're letting them say it, right? Giving that opportunity, and they might be like, okay, good. My third son was the same way. He was very shy. I'm like, come on, buddy. Just go up there. Just how you want to play it, or just play around them, and then slowly conversation, and just be like, look, I'm going to set it up all the time. Maybe the first time, but the second time, I'm going to introduce you to them. Third time, you're going to introduce, right? So it doesn't have to be on the first time. I said, Mr. Khadi said, do it, say it, right? So I need you guys to understand everything is a building process. The TV game, right? You know how we talked about the Super, like take the Super Bowl thing. One is you're not doing it, shut off. Second one is Super Bowl, just kind of like remind them a lot of time, but you kind of like hands off. Third is, this is exactly how I remember my father, right? At our home, we didn't watch TV, right? I'm very limited. I had to watch every Monday. I still remember Buck Rogers. Thursday was Cosby Show. Like I would write down which day. The only thing I could not watch is sports. Sports was like my go-to. So he's like, okay, that way you could watch. But I remember even the Super Bowl, he would be like, now Salah time, I'm saying, hey, but Salah time, he goes, hey, when is halftime? Or what time is like, when the quarter ends? Can you figure that out? Can you tell me? Hey, can you go pray there? So what is it? You still got to pray. I'm still going to work with you, figure out when is halftime and stuff. So it doesn't have to be, I thought it just happened, 4:35, shut it down. You know there's a gap between us, so you got an hour or two. So you say, hey, can you figure this out? And at that time, let's kind of go ahead and look at it. Hey, which quarter is it? Oh, the last 2 minutes of fourth quarter? Okay, we'll try to finish it off, right? Or now you might have the TV where you can say, okay, can you pause it? Pause and you could pray. That's where you're having that balance, right? Where you're not like completely, they give you that 3 samples. That's where you want to kind of keep it and going and making things there. So even now when you do something like TV and saying, all right, iPads for us was up to 8th grade, none except half an hour, right? And you are an hour to cartoons. Right? And then say weekends, you could get more. But that means you have to play Connect 4 options. So it's not, we can't do this, but then what's the alternative? And how do you keep those things balanced, inshallah, plays a big part.
Or you can just pray during halftime.
Or halftime. That's what I'm saying. So giving options for kids is very important.
If you give more an example of like when, I know like struggle is like after school routine, like doing homework and stuff.
Yeah.
So how would you put this into the 3?
Gotcha. So
Or like elementary, middle, and high school.
High school, yeah. So even like, one of the things is like, one is like, hey, did you do your homework? Okay, just make sure you do it. And then later on, it's like, what's with you? You never do it, right? I'm a big believer. If you want to have good habits, you got to start young. So I was a big person even at 3rd and 4th grade that all you have to do is even as like a workshop, like, hey guys, for 5-10 minutes every day, just going to start, you're going to work on something, right? It might be like, those workbooks back in the days before computers, we had those workbook sheets. Say, look, you got to do a day. I started when they're 3-4 years old. Why? Because you have habits of 5 minutes. That helps kids. You can't just think it's going to click on. Someone wants to be a great athlete. You don't just have the gym class and say, that's it. If you want to be good, it's the stuff you do after school, right? If someone wants to be a great artist, it's the same thing. Quran class, if you're just reading 3 lines in front of the sheikh at the class, but if you're not practicing at home, you're not going to be a better Quran reader. A person who reads books, the individuals who read 40% of 40 minutes or more at home are in the top 90 percentile under standardized test scores. Kids who read from 10 to 20 minutes outside of school, they're in the 50 to 75, right? That's just research of how the practice you do plays a big part, just like you learning karate. You can't just say, oh, watch it on TV, I know what to do. If you don't practice the same thing over and over, that's how they have the power of 100. If you do anything for like 100 hours, then you are in the top 75. You do for 1,000 hours, right? You become, like top 10%. And elite status is 10, you do something from 5,000 to 10,000 hours over and over, you become like those exceptional, right? So the idea of homework is at a young age having habits of saying, hey, just 5-10 minutes go through. Someone has a hard time. I remember one of our kids would just be a timer. 10 minutes, you could see it. In 10 minutes, you stop. Get to where you need to go to. Like Quran reading, I'm like, just gonna read for 7 minutes. Right? When they're young, you could say 2 pages. As you get older, you can say like 6 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna take all day. Right? So you just have that. And I think those are concepts to do that. Elementary, middle school, it's so important when everyone has devices and access, having your homework things in the kitchen or an area where people are around, and then setting aside saying, look, let's plan now 4 o'clock to 5:30, you're going to hang out and do your stuff, but 5:30 to 6:30 is your homework routine. And sometimes if you start it off later, then you can step away because they'll have their own independence to kind of do this. But so now if you're just laid back letting them do, are you stuck? I want you to do it right now. When you come home, start right now. Because that's the way you want it, right? So all 3 of our kids, we have different styles. My wife was a student, so she's like, I used to come home and do it. I'm like, you're the mashallah kid. I might come in, I'm like, look, I'm gonna get it done. So I had that. So we had, like, my second one was just like her, like, came home, and done. My older one was like, park here, go back, come here. I'm like, look, as long as she's getting it done, and that means it's an hour and a half, as long as she's got 20 minutes and she wants to do something, but let's kind of build on it. And the third one is like, the youngest one is always like the one you'd be more relaxed on, right? Where the oldest one's more independent, the middle one's always the middle child issues, and then the bottom one, right? So all this is kind of like, there are things. So you have to parent each one separately. Yeah. Because each one, and then every time and age, ours is 2 years apart. So that means what was psychological at that moment, what was happening financially at that moment, what was happening emotionally at that moment. All these, each kid has a different taste, right? I was a tougher, older one goes, you guys were tougher on us than the youngest one. It's like the other one, we didn't have no phone and stuff until high school. But until they got into high school, the youngest one got it by, at the start of 8th grade. My wife said, oh, don't, just let it be. I'm like, no, stick to the plan, right? So, right? But it happens, right? You go back and forth, right? So anything, like, I'm like the father. So I'm like, when they're young, the girls were really close to me, right? And the son is really close to mom. And then I might be more tough on the son, right? Just because I'm like, okay, like we always joke, right? I say, your mama gave you life, but Baba's going to teach you about life, right? So, right? We're going to, like you have these conversations. So how do, as a parents, say, what are we going to agree on, what we're going to not agree on, how are we going to follow through plays a big part. So having that structure of timings or opportunities, but saying, hey, it's got to be done. And at the end, it's to be like, can I see it? All right, get it done and have it. So you're not there all the time, like, okay, now you got to do this. Now you do that. And those, the ones you see, like in early childhood parents, every preschool parent goes, my child's looking maybe strong. Can they skip? I'm like, that's great. I'm like, that's because it's one-on-one class. Let's see how they do in a group setting. Oh, shit, it must be because they're just intimidated. That's because you were on them the whole day. And now they can't, know how to function because mom's not around, right? Right? Or dad's not around. So that's why the other things, it's the social, emotional, gross motor skills that people don't think about, because everyone's like, look, they know the ABC 1, 2, 3 and stuff. They should skip. That's every Muslim parent I see wants to skip their child, right? So, all right, I'm not talking about anyone if you see got this on video, right? Right? So it's just about, let's just look at this, right, in another perspective.
So I think it's so important to be on the same page when it comes to parenting, right? Some of us are in unique situations where we might not have the support that we need. So I think that's when you build your what's the word I'm looking for, connections, so that you can reach out to people in the community. So I just wanted to point that out there.
All right, so time to reflect. Am I solving problems my child could handle? Think to yourself. Am I available when my child truly needs me? Is my response based on fear or growth?
If anybody wants to share. Yeah.
So the other day, my 7th grader, maybe this is going to show how much I baby them. He was like, I'm going to make my own ramen. And I thought about all the ways, like, house is going to burn down, he's going to spill it. And but I was actually busy, so it was actually helpful that he was going to try. And he did make a huge mess. And I got really annoyed because cleaning up the mess was much harder than making the ramen myself. But then I realized if I don't let him try, he is not going to be able to do this, and then his wife is going to hate me. So it was fear-based.
Yeah.
not growth phase.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to take a shot?
Sometimes we have unique situations like Miss Seda said, where like we can't be like there for them all the time. We have to give them that independence. We have to teach them and guide them because we're busy doing something else, or we have the other children to attend to or whatnot, right? So each situation is different. But like you have to think about it also in terms of development. Like what can a child do by 5? What can they do by 10? What can they do by 15? Right? You have to think about it like that as well.
And just giving an idea, like when these things happen, when they need me, like for example, many of us, maybe when we grew up, we went and got food for our parents, like, at the corner store. So, Walgreens is a block away, and there was a question like, okay, well, can they go get it? Like, oh my God, it's gonna be dangerous. I'm like, no, I think they can make it. But I'm like, all right, let's drive. And we drive in front, and I'm like, okay, 2 kids go together. I want you to get milk, bread, whatever. Come back, right? Having that opportunity where you're still outside, so when they come, you see them, but giving them opportunities to become somewhat independent and learn skills, because that becomes also there. If not, everything's like, well, I'll just order it. I'm like, no, go to the store, because that, Uber, all these cost extra $2-3, right? So kids, everything's now simple. And I think the idea of having ratings, because what it does is teach them where this is, what's there. And now and then we have this conversation saying, all right, if something bad happens, here's the blanket cloth, here's a spray, because that's life skills also. Right now, our kids are driving, so we had a conversation. Okay, what should happen if Allah protects, that you have an opportunity to first call Mommy Baba, or you could call the insurance tow person. Like, what should you do, right? And having these conversations plays a big part in that discussion, saying, if this scenario happened, Allah protect, ... If this goes through, what should you do? And I think those conversations are very important, even when they go to college now, right? So I'm like, hey, sometimes my daughter wants to take the train. We have conversations. You're not going by yourself unless you have someone else, and you're not going to take the train after we pick you up. She goes to Loyola. Having these conversations plays a big part. Or the other one goes out of state. But these conversations has to be there and saying, well, this is what we trust, but this is what not there. Friends come over, can't come over. All these conversations are important, right? Like sleepovers, right? We had to have conversations and saying, look, maybe we're only family. Others are, why not? I'm like, hey, it's just too. And then you have to, like, as you get older, explain why our dean talks about why it's for protection, and even what happens in life sometimes have that. So you got to look at age appropriateness, but you could give different examples or different reasons why at the right time.
I feel like my kids are a little bit on the independent side, because I am doing 10 things at once, so I don't have the capacity to sit there and kind of show them how to be independent. So they are learning because they are in a unique situation. So all of my kids, like 3 of them, so 5th grader, 4th grader, and the kindergartner, they walk to school. They walk to school, they bike to school, and then they'll come back home together. So that's something that I'm like, I'm going to be late for work. So we've kind of established that routine. So obviously when the weather is not great, then I drop them off. But that's one of the goals that we have had for this year, is that you're going to be a lot more independent. So I've been seeing that. Anybody else who wants to share?
Yeah, I think for me, so I have 2. My son is 8, my daughter is 5. And especially for the last question, like, for my son, it's all about growth, and for my daughter, it's all fear. So it's like,
yeah, that's interesting.
So I gotta hover over her quite a bit, because if she's like climbing the couch or doing some gymnastic move, I'm like, okay, are you okay? But then with my son, I'm like, all right, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and
So like the gender makes a difference too.
All right, so we're gonna. All right, so some practical strategies for balance. One, you want to be a coach instead of a controller, right? You want to be someone who is teaching them. You want to ask them, what could you do to solve this, instead of giving them solutions. Or like sometimes we give choices, right? But it depends again on their age, right? But you can give choices. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. But you have to have them really choose, right? And you have to like coach them through it. 2, let natural consequences teach when it's safe, right? Lots of natural consequences happen, right? They forgot their homework folder at home, right? And and you realize when you get home that their homework folder's there. A natural consequence is that they receive, a few points off because they forgot it. They didn't put it in their backpack, right? Despite, your reminders. So it's kind of a natural consequence. You have to kind of teach them. And sometimes that's the best lesson. All right. Check in, don't check up. All right. So check in with them. Make sure that they're doing okay, that they're feeling okay, right? Don't check up. Meaning like don't go, ask their friend, ask your friend that is the parents, right? And don't try to look around them. Check in with them. See their perspective. The power of reflection. Ask them what got you in this way, right? What happened? Have them reflect what happened that made this situation occur, right? Have them come up with how the situation happened, right? Whatever the situation is. I don't know if you guys want to give examples about that.
And then there are certain times that we need to kind of check in, and sometimes we just need to be like, no. My son's now at 17, right? So all of his friends are driving. So I'm like, no, you're not driving, so-and-so you will not be able to sit down with, right? Because I saw him and he drives quite fast. You're not going. You could get there to the party, but this is not going to happen. Sometimes safety, security, or if you feel from a religious standpoint or just kind of socially that this can be effective, I think that's when you sometimes have to make stands, right? It's not almost like, okay, if you think, what we're trying to say is that certain times do we need to be held up? It can happen, right? And sometimes we need to be like, all right, this late, relax, and they're painting and making a mess. But you know what? There's a greater good in this, right? So you just kind of let it go. Have the mess. Like sometimes making mess is also part of the learning aspect of it. So I kind of keep those things in mind. So when you have to kind of even check in, if you feel I want people to realize there's no one right way. It's a balance, right? The Prophet was soft at certain times, but if they needed to be at certain times where they needed to show seriousness, we have to show seriousness. What's happening now is everyone's kind of sometimes too laid back, right? Like now, so I think having the balance of stuff. Like having, before any uncle at the masjid could say something to me, even though my dad never hit me. I never got hit by my dad, but I got hit by an uncle in the masjid, right? It's a crazy part, right? My dad wasn't like, he's like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. This other kid got hit. I was next with him, so I got hit too. He's like, all right, let it be, right? That doesn't mean, I think it happens at the masjid now, so just keep that. But in the past, right? Like so you will see these kind of situations. So, but what we have to realize is that, hey, if we have friends, like, hey, if we're seeing, like, a lot of times we're at a party, like, hey, if my son ever, give me a heads up, right? What we realize that we have to be open, saying, hey, did you see anything on my child? I've heard this. A lot of times it can't be my child, and so even your friends don't want to say something because they know. She can't, she or he can't take it because they just say that, but they really don't want to hear it. And I think that plays a big part because so many times it happens at school, like, can you make sure, I know we're best friends, but don't put them in the same class together. We're like, okay, but don't tell us we told you, but okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Right? And those become situations, right? So I think it's kind of keeping these things in mind as we're navigating these kind of conversations play a big part.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is that, I don't know if you feel, or it's something you've noticed too, is our kids are struggling to problem solve, like basic things. So as parents, what we can do, right, like being a coach is in a sense is that how do we help you problem solve? Because obviously we're not going to be living their life, right? They're going to be living their own life and they're going to be growing as their own individual beings. So how do we help our kids problem solve? And I think one of the takeaways that I want you all to take away from this is that, like, how do we get that going? How are we going to hold our kids' hand all the time, or are we going to help them get there by trusting that they can get there, right? They have the skills or they need the skills to get there. How can we as parents do that for them?
Teaching accountability is a big thing. I linked a worksheet here, and there's a lot of worksheets online. It's like a website. There's a lot of worksheets and a lot of resources online too, with like checklists and things like basic things that they have to do at home, basic things they have to do at school, basic things they have to do when they're participating in a sport or an activity or stuff like that, right? Those kind of things where you're teaching them explicitly what they're accountable for, right? And what they need to get done. Also, like talking to your child about like what are your strengths and what are the things you're struggling with, right? If like working memory is something that a lot of people struggle with, a lot of adults as well, right? Working memory is like that ability to remember things while you have 10 other things on your mind and you have to go to work and you have to drop off the kids. Right? Having the ability to kind of organize your thoughts and then follow through with all of the things you have to do, right? That's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially kids, right? Like forgetting their homework. They did it, it's in their folder, but where's their folder? It's at home, right? So teaching that like kind of structure that, okay, you finish your homework, you have to put it in your backpack. That's your responsibility. That's not mom's responsibility, right? That's nobody else. That's not your sibling's responsibility. Teaching them, you have to be accountable for your own stuff, right? And that comes also with age, right? I would say by the time they finish 5th grade, they should be accountable for their homework and all of their belongings, right, that go to school. Also, modeling behavior, right? Us as parents admitting when we're wrong, admitting when we made a mistake, right? And explaining it and thinking out loud about how we can fix it, right? That is it goes a long way for kids especially, right? That they see their parents admit that they're wrong and try to find a solution, right, in the moment, right? A lot of times we make a mistake and we're just like, we hope the kids didn't notice, or we just like, try to like sweep under the rug or be like, oh no, that was just a one-time thing, but it goes a long way when you are admitting it in front of your kids and you are saying, hey, this is why it happened. Maybe I misplaced something. This is why it happened. This is what I'll do next time so this doesn't happen, right? Kind of talking out loud. And then, of course, positive reinforcement, right? Saying things like, I appreciate that you hung up your coat without being asked, right? A lot of times kids come in the house, they just kind of throw their coat on the couch, take off their shoes, right? But not going after them and make like, how many times did I tell you to, but slowly teaching them, where does our coat go? Where do our shoes go, right? And then when they actually put them away and when they actually hang their jacket, wow, I really appreciate that you did that on your own, right? That goes a long way as well, right? In teaching them how to kind of do the things they need to do.
I just give you an example of modeling behavior, like how I remember when we were young, and that's why it's always good to reflect when we're young and then even with kids. So we had, you go to the park. So my son was a little taller at that time. So someone else was with us, and then he wasn't 6 at that time. So this program, this official amusement park ride, you had to be a certain age. So they're like, oh, just tell your son to say he's 6. I was like, something like, no, you're not going to do that. Because now, if I go ahead for this game and tell him, it's a small white line, but that just sets up for a future, like, okay, some things you could just go ahead and do that. I was like, no, I'm sorry. He's not going to ride that. He's like, come on. And I'm like, I kind of pulled the person on the side. I'm like, that's not what we're going to, I'm like, that's cool with you. I have no problem, but I'm not going to do that because in my mind, if I just tell him and the kid, if that person asks him, how old are you, son? And he says 6, I'm just purposely setting him up and stuff like that. We always do like, okay, you know what? We get a free, just say that you're 11 years old so we could get half discount, right? Those conversations of what we model plays a big part of how we're dealing with stuff, right? And so I think that's something that I kind of keep in mind. A funny example is that, how a lot of times with kids, I remember sometimes if I'm thinking I might, I used to bite my nails. And I had a habit when I was young, I was trying to get better. So my son started biting his nails. My wife had told him when he was young and said, hey, stop biting your nails. He's like, what? Baba does it. Like, right? Now that could be the first thing. I'm like, what did you just say to me about it? I was like, you know what? Yeah, look, man, that is true. And that's why, guess what? Daddy used to tell me the same thing, right? And because it could become a bad habit. Right. And then one thing I remember my mom, like, a lot of times you probably didn't do this, shouldn't do this. And I think at 14, 15, she said, look, at the end, I love you. Right. And my job is not to tell you all the good things you do. It's all the things that you do well, because why? Others are going to use that against you. Right. And I was like, that's a good point, Mom. I'm like, why did you just tell me that before? So I'm like, tell the kids, I'm like, look, Mama loves you. That's the reason I have to tell you. But that's the point, right? Because sometimes we don't explain why we're doing it. We're just like, yeah, they're just nagging. But these become habits. And I say, look, that becomes a problem that if we don't have that, when we're thinking or something fidgeting, people do certain things. So having that model behavior, or I had this one kid one time, we were talking about, hey guys, we make announcements, tell your parents not to get on their phone and stuff. Yeah, I once told my dad and stuff. He's like, just stop. Don't tell me. Right? In the car, like, don't get on your phone. So, we try to tell kids, hey, don't tell parents to make a left turn. I remember this one kid goes, yeah, I told my dad, but my dad's like, don't worry about it. Right? So now, kids pick up stuff. Right? Right? It's just that we do stuff that we don't keep up. And some of the stuff that gets challenged, we're like, okay, we just go with the flow. But these are very important that how, being ethical, doing stuff like that, small or big, that's part of our deen. We're really great at ibadah, but when it comes to muamalah, dealing with others, those are things that Allah's also going to question for us too. So inshallah,
we don't pay attention to the simple things. That too, like telling my kid that he's like 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's setting that example. I'm reflecting. Okay, so
we want to do kind of like a little group discussion. So maybe every table can have a group and talk about kind of if your child forgets their homework, do you bring it to school for them, or do you let them face the consequences? We talked a little bit about this. So maybe the 2 back tables can talk about that, and then these 2 tables can take your teen struggles socially. Do you intervene or guide from the side? So please introduce yourself, talk amongst each other. And then
this is a great time to get your child.
Yeah. Somebody else?
He's all I don't have so he was but he doesn't older, you bring it I don't maybe and then if they did it again, I'd be like, that's all we never bring it second. Put that. Yeah. So how old is she? Second. Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. I just think natural causes me to find that's not I was like, that is but not a culture. There's a culture of helicopter parenting. And whenever I do stuff like at the park, it's my kid like it's just something tall. Like find out. I think they're here to like really know.
Assalamu alaikum for the people online. We're just doing a group discussion. Hope you're able to see those questions. The questions are, your child forgets homework. Do you bring it to school for them or let them face the consequence? The second question is, your teen struggles socially. Do you intervene or guide them from the side? So we're just kind of having a discussion right now, and then we will get back in about 5 minutes. And then we would love to hear from online people too.
I saw the dead body.
I feel like maybe my response would be different. I like but we did that before, but he just have like points off. Oh yeah. Like to me, you should have turned your phone. I mean, like yesterday he was like, I don't want to be homework. So I'm like, did you turn your double check like your phone? Like he has to look at people like I would have worked. Yeah. And double check. He didn't have something like see it. Yeah, I think like maybe that I like right at young house, right? For first grade, right? She said that you can get like no, there at least like yeah, or it's like like way back.
All right, so let's go with this. People right here, Dad. You talked about your teen struggling socially, right? So do you want to share some insights? What do you think about that?
I was talking, I have a 17-year-old and it's a very real problem for me. She does struggle socially and I've tried to talk to her about it. She doesn't want to talk to me about it at all. She will speak to her mom about it. For some reason, I can't get a word out of her and I really don't know what to do with it.
All right. Well, what does intervening look like if you were to intervene on the behalf of your child because they struggle socially? What would that look like? What do you think is something you would do?
I've tried to ask her what's bothering her or why is she sad, but that she really doesn't open up to me, so I really don't know how else to intervene.
Yeah, I think you're trying to check in. But sometimes checking up does, matter because sometimes kids are also different at home than they are in school. Like I've had many parents tell me like my child, whenever we go anywhere was very timid, very shy, doesn't talk to anyone. But then you ask their teacher and they're like, no, they're fine. They're talking in class, they're having fun, they're laughing, they're doing activities, so it's kind of like a different dynamic. And that might be that you're bringing out something in your child that maybe is different than a different environments bring out different things. But intervening would probably be like going to the counselor, right, and asking them to check in with your child or talk to the teacher and see kind of how are they acting in school, how is that different, drawing parallels, right, that kind of thing. That's what intervening would look like. But I want to give you a chance to also talk. What do you think?
Can I speak back for a second?
Yeah.
So I had 3 things I want you guys to think about. So one becomes how long at least one person is talking to someone, right? There are moments, like, especially for young ladies and guys, boys, when they reach their teens, especially girls. There's a lot of girl drama, right? It's like, I don't know. Did she say it to you? No, I know what she's saying. Okay, but did she really, we have to like kind of, we have to go through. Then when we talk to parents, mom's like, no, it's not our kids, other kids. I'm like, okay, if everyone's going to think that it's not their kid, we're having trouble here. Like everyone has to kind of buy into this because a lot of them are friends. 1 year, next year they're not friends. I guarantee you, like 4 years later, they'll all laugh about, oh my God, we all didn't get along with each other, right? That happens. So that becomes one. So, but when that moment happens, especially with teenagers, I realized as I was younger, I was close. But when they started, growing up and developing, then they're like, it comes mama, right? So one thing I realized was, hey, making sure just having that check-in. So that might be just like, okay, when I say the word, please don't take it like father-daughter day. Like, okay, we're going out to just eat. Like, hey, how's it going? Not talking about what's going on with you because everyone knows. Okay, that means. So it might be like, oh, hey, what's your favorite, game right now? What's going on and stuff. Without going in, and that might be the second time. Then I'm going to get into what the question might be where I want to get to, but I can't get to because it has to be a process. If kids are watching, no, I still like talking to you, right? But the idea is, but the process of sitting down and kind of getting that heads up, right? So it's not like, because a lot of kids like, oh my God, Baba's talking to me, or mom's talking to me, that means something's up because, like mom and me were close.
Yeah, I would normalize like that father-daughter and mother-son, right? Like we want to be able to split the tie so that we're able to give. So we watched the video at the beginning, right? No two parents are same, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, that's a fact, but I would highly encourage you all to and us to kind of split that time to see who give equal time to both or how many kids you have.
Yeah, and so that kind of brings up 3, right? So one becomes at least you have one parent. That's 2. Second of all, that doesn't mean you're like, okay, everything goes mom. You still build that relationship, try to figure that out. Third, sometimes you just need another person, right? Like there's a certain time I might talk to a bunch of kids throughout the world. I say, with my own kids, I'm Bob. So sometimes I'll be like, Coach Audrey, can you talk to my son and say something? You just have to have a third party. So there's always that one cool uncle, auntie in the family that everyone likes, and you just got to be like, all right, as long as they're on the same kind of views of you, like, hey, can you just go ahead, or can you get this info, blah, 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 or can you reinforce something? That's going to be it. And if it's mom and they're close, that's great, but that means mom and dad have to be in the same conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We have to have conversations and certain things that we have to go through, right? Because I think a lot of times we have to navigate, things and saying, hey, it's going to work here. And with the son, sometimes mom and sons are really things. So that's where I have to be like, okay, I'm going to be saying this, and you got to reinforce this. Don't be going. If he comes back to you, say, this is what Baba said, right? Because if you go, oh, didn't do that, it's not going to work, right? Right. So having that our personal conversations that we see this, what's going on here, what are you hearing? And then sometimes my wife, I go, she'll come like, hey, this was okay. We maybe say this, or heads up, or vice versa. I'm like, hey, they said this. What's your thoughts? Right? You're being tough on that.
Yeah, giving. We don't want to give mixed signals, very mixed messaging. We want to be able to have whoever the guardians are to be on the same page, like co-parent together, so that you are not like. So it's with teenagers especially, so like a power struggle, right? So we want to be able to be mindful of that, and even with younger kids, you have to have them. You have to be on the same page to be able to connect with your kids. with arrogance.
Yeah. All right, so do you guys want to share anything about your team, the second scenario that you discussed? It's okay if you don't.
Well, my daughter had a problem with the first one, my little first grader. She would probably forget the homework. Do you bring it to school or do you let them? So I would bring it to school. I would be, so this is like for my daughter. I would bring it to school in the beginning. She was crying. It was such a drama, you know? So I would bring it to school. But now that she's in first grade, I don't bring it to school. And I've noticed, and I kind of talked to the teacher and I was like, this is the situation. She forgot her homework and that's why she didn't have it. And she was like, I will talk to her. And ever since her teacher talked to her, we've never had that problem.
So you needed that third
We
person.
never had that problem. My boys, on the other hand, they're forgetting their lunches. So I come to school to drop off their lunches.
It's a tough one.
You know, just and stuff like that. So I'm dropping off their lunches. And I actually made the bold decision not to, like 2 weeks ago. So I didn't drop it off. And they all figured it out. People gave them a bag of chips. Someone gave them an apple or whatever. So it was okay. And now they actually reach back to the island and they will be like, where's my lunch? You know,
Because they remember that feeling.
So it's all new.
They remember that feeling of having to ask someone else.
Problem solving.
It's hard for mom. You kids, it's not allowed, but let's go.
Sometimes we have to be a little tough on ourselves because it's difficult.
Yeah.
But I think, again, we need to be able to problem solve, and this is a really good example.
Yeah.
All right, back tables. Your child forgets their homework. What do?
We don't bring it.
You
don't bring it.
You don't bring it.
Nope.
Have any of you like created systems for children to remember things?
They pack their bag the night before school.
Checking your bag the night before, yeah, make sure everything's in there. Yes, having like a little checklist. Yes, definitely. All right, so we're gonna move right on. All right, so connection, not control. And this is a very important concept to understand as well because strong relationships make guidance easier, right? When you have that strong connection with your child, they're more willing to listen to you when you're trying to guide them into doing a certain thing a certain way, right? Listen more than lecture, especially with the older kids, right? Over 14, I would say listen more than lecture, right? And children cooperate more when they feel understood. So you have to validate feelings first, right? Your child is telling you something, they're highly upset, you validate their feelings. You don't say, oh no, that doesn't mean anything, forget about that, you know, like they have to feel like you understand them, right? You understand why they're upset, right? A lot of times, even if you struggle to understand why they're upset, even if you grew up in a different way and to you that's, you know, doesn't make sense, you still have to validate their feelings. I will share these in case you want to look at them again, all right? So, so just a little bit about children's emotional and developmental needs, right? These are all the needs. I'm not going to read them, you know, one by one, but I would say the need for acceptance and affection is something that is very important, right? Obviously, you love your child. Obviously, it's unconditional, right? But do they know that? Do they always know that, right? Do they always feel accepted by you no matter what they do, right? Do you give them physical affection? Do you help them make their self-esteem stronger, right? Do you accept them for who they are, right? Or do you like make small little mistakes into a big thing, into being grounded, into making them feel like they, you know, are the black sheep of the family, right? It's kind of like you have to think about that, right? Sometimes we have trouble connecting with our child for different reasons, right? Like my middle son is just like his dad, and there's tension there. There's tension there. So when I get mad at him, it's as if I'm mad at my husband. I tell my husband, you know what? Like you talk to him, you understand him because he's just like you. Like we understand that, right? Like that we're gonna get into an argument. So you know, I let my husband handle it because he's more like him. He can understand him on a level I can't. So that's sometimes, you know, your children that are most like you, you're able to understand them better, right? You're able to connect with them better, but that doesn't mean give up, right? But that means that you have to kind of be cognizant of that.
No, go keep going.
All right, so I think we've been talking about this, right? When to step in, safety concerns, mental health or emotional distress, repeated patterns that aren't improving, I think Mr. Condon kind of made it pretty. So, do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah,
So safety concerns could be like a bullying situation at school. Obviously recognizing that, talking to, you know, people at school to kind of, you know, solve the issue, right? Mental health, when there's a mental health concern, right? When your child, turns inwards, God forbid, you know, and starts harming themselves or something like that, that's when you have to get outside support. You have to, kind of, you know, intervene. And just when you see that there is over time no improvement, right? That's when you have to step in. It's not like a choice anymore.
I want to go back to the bullying thing that Ms. Lena brought up. So sometimes what happens is that it's really essential to assess what's happening and asking the teacher, cross-checking as to what's happening so that we can get to the bottom of this. Sometimes because bullying is such a sticky topic where oftentimes we jump to the conclusion of, yeah, this is bullying, right? Sometimes it might not be. So I think we need to be open to the possibility of, yes, it might be, but also it might not.
Yeah, and this is where I think the word, I apologize, I have another meeting that's someone's going to call in a few minutes. But one of the key things is, especially bullying, like in lower grades, it's called social dynamics. I had a situation of friends, like my child's getting bullied in pre-K. I was like, oh, Amina's not playing with Fatima. I'm like, hey, Amina. I'm just making up names, so no one that's that exactly, just in case. It's a few years ago. And then I'm like, okay, Amina playing Fatima. Can I talk to Fatima? Hey, Fatima, what happened? Amina, did Amina ever play with you? She's like, yeah, she played with me last week. She played with you Monday. She played with you Tuesday. She played with you Wednesday. What happened? Thursday. She goes, I'm not playing with you. I'm going to play with someone else. And so I was like, oh, okay. But then I'm like, okay, that's not bullying. That's social dynamics. So even parenting, the words we use play a big part. But middle school, high school, that's where we need to start looking into stuff. So maybe you guys give some thoughts. I've got to jump on this phone call, and then we could just kind of go from there.
Yeah. Right, when it comes to middle school, high school, like Anya said, bullying is a sticky topic. But a lot of times, girls especially are hot and cold with one another, right? One day, one week, they're perfect. The next week, somebody said something was misinterpreted, and all of a sudden, there's like a whole like split with the group, right? So it's kind of sticky. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. But we do obviously our best to kind of put our ears to the ground and kind of like know what's going on and know which groups are and which particular students are you know, bullying, which are being bullied, right, and that kind of thing. Alhamdulillah, you know, so far in the school year, there hasn't been any big situation or anything like that. Like I said, girls are always sometimes not in cold with one another, and boys are the opposite, right? They're just like, whatever. So, you know, we kind of address that situationally, but if you have any concern, obviously, you can come to me for Morton Grove campus and we'll see the progress. All right, so progress, not perfection. All right, so when you want to move your child to be more independent, progress is important, not perfection, right? You will overstep sometimes, right? That's okay, but it's important to also repair matters more than getting it right, right? I mean, repair as in like, if a situation happens, you get into an argument with your child or whatnot, they're trying to be more independent, you're trying to be more hands-on, right? It's important to process that later. It's important to talk to them about why you stepped in when you did, right? It's important for them to understand if there was a safety concern. Sometimes kids can't recognize that. They can't recognize that. They think it's like, it's fine, it's safe, like there's nothing wrong, right? But it's important for you to process that with them and talk to them about it, right? Balanced parenting is a practice, not a destination.
So I, so I also see like kids and teenagers and stuff, like privately. And one of the things I do encourage my teens and my parents, even if they're younger, is to work like repair. As soon as there's something broken, you need to be able to repair that, because if you don't, then resentments come in and you won't be able to fix what's been damaged. So as soon as there's a disagreement, obviously let it cool down and then come back. Even for the younger kids, this works too. just getting to their level, understanding where they're coming from, like, letting them understand why you did what you did, so that you all can go back to creating that balance again.
Yes, yes, repair is a big topic. There is a really good YouTube video here. It's like a TED Talk by Kennedy. She talks a lot about how to repair, right? Sometimes we don't know how to do that because maybe our parents didn't do it. Our parents, always just kind of brushed it off, forgot about it. We never got that apology. We never got that even acknowledgement, right? And so that we don't repeat that pattern, we have to kind of know what to do to repair, right? Processing negative situations that take place and repairing damage is a big thing, right? Especially being able to apologize to your child, right? Sometimes our ego gets in the way, our pride is there, right? We really don't want to, but like I'm a big believer in the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? Right, you're creating that new neural pathway in your head, and it'll become easier with each time when you do repair and when you do apologize.
My parents never apologized for whatever they did, so I'm still waiting for that apology.
All right, so we talked about this. No two children have the same parents. The YouTube video is there if you'd like to watch it again. If you missed it, if you came in late. All right, so just some final takeaways. Parenting isn't about control or absence, right? Not helicopter and not hands off, right? It's about presence, guidance, and trust, right? If you have those three things, there isn't any situation you can't overcome, inshallah. All right, and you're doing better than you think. All right, do we have any questions?
Where are the slides going to be available?
So what we do is Miss Melinda will send out the video for Instagram, and the slides will be attached. We also put them on our WhatsApp group, and we put them on our website. We have a dedicated Counseling Oasis website. And these are just some resources. That's a book by Dr. Gaber. He's the one that was in the video talking. And
I really like this book, Parenting from the Inside Out. It's a really, really good book. So I highly encourage you all to read it if you get a chance to. I have a copy, so if anybody wants it, I can lend it to you, but I need it back. So yeah, like it's just like you're kind of working on yourself at the same time being a good parent. It's a really good book.
all right. So what did you feel is most helpful in this workshop? What barriers do you see to balancing parenting? Anyone want to share?
Yeah, feedback, thoughts.
We love to hear feedback so that we can improve anything. I know we're over time, so if you have to leave, please.
Yeah. I like the discussion part. Like, I think that would be nice if there's more discussion, maybe. Like back and forth.
Yeah.
You guys presented a lot of information, which was really great. But then I feel like I had things that I could have said or I wanted to ask about.
I think examples are so really helpful too, because especially with we all have like different ages for kids, right? So mine are 5 and 8, some are teenagers. I'm not even at the teenager side yet. So so it's nice to hear about the different examples of the kids.
You can ask now if you like.
Yes, I have a question.
There's so much though. There's like so much. Like that was a really great presentation. But like and even just talking to the other parents, that was nice. There's more built in.
I have how to increase communication with the kids. So every day when they come to high school and everything is good, it's routine day. What I do, especially I love to hear some details, and I know everything.
Like it's the way. Are you
So parent circles ago, we shared some questions that are aside from like how was your day, right? How was your day? Sometimes it's too open ended for kids that they just want to like be like, okay, it was fine, it was good. Like they just want to give you a quick answer, but there are some like deeper questions that you can ask. Especially if you have younger kids, like if today was a color, what would it be? What was the best thing that happened today? What was the worst? Trying to get more information details out of them.
So, our normal reaction is when we pick up our child, we say, how was your day? What did you do? So really they need to decompress. So what I've done when my child was in middle school, high school, I let them have dinner, kind of decompress. And then towards the end of the evening, that's when we talk. And that's when they're opened up a little bit more after that. So I stopped asking after pickup, I don't ask.
Yeah.
So,
think that's a good
yeah.
How old are your children?
I have four,
But it's okay
10,
with the
8,
homework.
and
Let's see, I'm looking at their time.
They don't know much about it. Okay, all under
I
time.
learned that from another parent.
Yeah. Asking them like in a different way.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and especially if they have.
So she's 21 now.
What do you use? Anything I know from teacher and from classmate, he doesn't know from him.
Yeah.
Well, I know parents that ask for like minute details, like they want their child to tell them like every single thing. And some succeed in this, right? Some succeed in training their kids to tell them every detail, but I'm not sure if that's checking in or checking out, right? Because there's a difference, right? So we have to like kind of be careful, right? Our child shouldn't be telling us every single detail. I went to the bathroom third period, and I want to talk to my friend, during lunch. We talked about, like, sometimes too much detail is not good, yeah.
I'm talking in general, if what's happened, what's the bigger kid? What's the big something different today? What happened?
What did you learn today? Yeah. What's something that surprised you today? Yeah, these are all questions that I will give.
Yeah, it depends on how you ask the question, right? If you're gonna ask like, how was your day? That's very like you said, it's very generic, it's very open ended. So if you want to be very
They have to think. Yeah, they have to think overall.
Yeah.
It was okay overall.
Yeah, so I ask my kids like, what's one thing you did with your friend, right? So that could be my kindergartner was always rambling, so I'm done with it. You want to say?
I was saying I like the reflections, the parent reflections, people talking about like with their kids, what they do, what they have done, what's helped. I think that really is kind of like it speaks to you because you're in the same boat. So I think that's really helpful. And any kind of like, pick up points of what you can do or tips. Those are really nice to have as well overall.
So I usually ask who they ate lunch with, because and in their classroom they're assigned a seat, right? But what's important afterwards during lunch, that's where the social, So I usually ask who they ate lunch with. So
For the older kids parents, like the teenagers and stuff like that, I think you should spend one-on-one time with your daughter. I think it'll go a long way. And like not like coming in with like bombarding the questions. Hey, like we're just gonna hang out.
Or find the opportunity, like maybe your wife is busy with the other kids. Be like, okay, we're on our own tonight for dinner. How about we go to, your favorite place? What's your favorite restaurant? Something like that, right? Where that you build that connection and slowly, inshallah, over time.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the things with my kids, because they all have a lot to say, but they feel like I'm not listening. So I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm going on a lot of walks. I will take one kid with me on the walk, and I'll personally not take all of them.
Yeah.
And then it gives that one kid time, because especially like some of my kids talk over the others because they're more chatty, so the other ones never get to say anything. Another thing that happened that I think might be helpful is you have to put your phone down.
Yes.
As my kids came and they told me a bunch of stuff at bedtime, and I'm like, why am I hearing about this now at like 9:30? I was like, we wanted to tell you, but you seem busy. I'm like, I was here the whole night. I was, but I was reading and texting and WhatsApping, so they didn't feel like there was time to talk, even though I was there for 3-4 hours.
Yeah, it's a good point. Putting your
And one thing I wanted to say to Mr. Godby when he was talking was that you're telling your child go do your homework, right? But maybe like you tell them go sit at the dining room table, right? But you're right there in the family room, you have the TV on, right? So like, what message are you sending them that like, oh, they have to like this is homework is their punishment? They have to go sit over there and while you're like sitting and relaxing. No, maybe you can do something else. Maybe you can do something in the kitchen. Maybe you can do something, like maybe like the whole house should take a break at that time, and it should only be homework time without other distractions from other places, right?
Yeah, I'm struggling with that, especially my son will be doing his homework while his sister is like watching a show or something like that. So what I started doing now is like giving him like my headphones. So he'll put his headphones on or my headphones on.
Noise canceling, yes.
Yeah, it's just like lo-fi music, or he's just focused on doing his homework, and then after that's done, it's helping. It's actually really helping.
And you have to create that space for them, right? They can't have distractions while they're trying to like do. It's not going to be productive.
like every family is unique, right? So you want to take what we are presenting and make it fit for your family. right? So we are coming from different situations, different backgrounds and whatnot. So do what is best for you with the information that is provided. Sometimes we don't have that support. Sometimes, we don't have another person to watch or the space. Right? So what do we do in that situation? So you make what works in the situation, whatever it is that will work for your family.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
I had a question about, do you guys have any recommendations for like emotional regulation in the moment? Because I think that is the biggest issue. Is like, I know what I should be doing, but I'm not necessarily doing because I'm not regulated, or like, do you have any?
Are you not regulated, or is your child not regulated?
I think I'm not regulated.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's both, obviously, but like, it's my, in the end, I'm the adult, right? So it should
Because
be.
yes, I asked because they do mirror your reaction, like Mr. Kaji said as well. Like when you're driving and somebody cuts you off and it's so unfair, like what are you saying in that moment? How is your body language? How are you reacting, right? And that does translate. It does translate like directly to them, right? So if, for example, like something happens and you're very upset and you're upset with them, you're upset with the situation, like we talked a lot about this in here in Circle, taking that pause, right? Being like, okay, time out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk away. I'm gonna breathe. I'm gonna, because they're looking at you. They're looking at you to see what's your reaction, right? Like some kids like read everything about your body language, everything about like Mr. Kaji gave you the example of biting his nails, like. Something you didn't even realize your kids know about you or notice about you. They do. So it's like it has to be like that. You are modeling that, right? You are taking that pause, and it takes practice. It does. If you're somebody who's very reactive and like get very dysregulated easily when you're upset in a situation, right? You have to kind of build that neural pathway, right? You have to do something different each time and practice it over and over so that it becomes a habit. It becomes your go-to to kind of calm yourself, and then, and just like, how old is your child? 6. So just saying, Mama just needs a minute right now.
First grade.
Mama just needs a minute. I need to go bathroom, pantry, wherever, right? I just need a minute, right? And they tend to understand.
I do say that, like, I need some space or I need a minute, but then I feel like sometimes she internalizes that as like, she's the problem.
So I was thinking about that, right? So like one of the things that you can do is that, I don't know if this will work, but maybe like co-regulating together.
Yeah. Or I would say process that.
Yeah.
Mama's not mad at you. I'm just mad at what happened, and I just needed a minute to process it in my mind. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about how we could not have it happen next time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Even with the older kids, you guys can do this too. Like if there is a disagreement or you feel like nothing's being resolved, like, hey, I'm gonna take 5. You take 5. Let's regroup after we come back. So it's a lot easier with older kids. Yeah.
I love the timer idea. The Pomodoro technique is something I live by. So
Yeah.
I love the idea of like having that visual and that, the timer goes off. Okay. Now we can come back together and talk. Not like you forgot about it. You started dinner and she started her homework and like, it's bedtime. Forget it.
Yeah.
It's easy for that to happen too.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Any other topics that you would like us to cover?
Any questions in the chat?
Yeah. Do they have any questions?
No, not now.
I would just a suggestion about communities, like having community be part of like parenting. I feel like American culture is very insular and nuclear, and we're missing that village.
Right.
And so how could we, as MCC or as Muslims or as neighbors, how can we be more of a community to each other as parents? And I think that would make parenting a lot easier.
For
sure. We didn't feel so.
You definitely need a village, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have that support,
Yeah.
you definitely need to outsource. And that's a struggle sometimes.
It
for
is,
families.
If you don't have extra parents, like in-laws or grandparents, or afford a babysitter, like what do you do? How do we be there?
Yeah, those are real life questions, like everybody, as people are dealing with. And I don't have answers. And I think this is something that we all can kind of explore.
I would say, definitely reach out with your is there parents for each classroom in Skokie? I don't know if they do that. Yeah, so reach out and be like, maybe there's something you can create. Maybe you can create like a book club. Maybe you can create like a once a month get together at a certain restaurant or whatnot, right? With the other moms, right? It helps to have
Well,
that.
what if like work comes in the way?
Yeah.
Again, like these are like real life things that we deal with, so, sometimes we have to make it work. Right, for us to be part of the community, we have to show up because that's how we make connections.
Please do come to the parent circle.
There's a question in the chat. Is it possible to make an appointment to discuss some specific scenarios?
Yes, of course, it depends on what grade, like what grade is.
Yeah, what grade? Yeah.
I'm at Skokie, so well, feel free to just walk in.
And Miss Linda's in Morton Grove. So yeah.
It depends on where you're at. Like, you're more than welcome to come in.
Yes. All right, and our next workshop is on April 21st. We do have a topic. We're going to be talking about the dangers of screen time, social media, gaming from a pediatric research
So
perspective.
we have a speaker for that, so inshallah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Put it in your calendar. We'll send reminders, of course, and we'll see you guys.
And then we have our parent circle, March,
I
that
believe.
first Wednesday of the month. We do parent circles at the Skokie campus. We have some familiar faces that have come, so maybe ask them how it is and whatnot, so to get to understand what we do.
It'll be March 4th.
Yeah, it's March 4th, yeah. So it's a support group for parents, because parenting is, we can't do parenting alone, right? Yeah. You guys don't have any questions. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be here for